Why have there been no great women artists? I want you to take like 2 seconds and think of the women artists that you know of from art history. There's probably like three or four that come to mind. Or Georgia O'Keeffe and Frida Kahlo are going to be on there, but were they truly great in the sense of art history? I'm not so sure. This isn't actually a question that I'm answering. This is a question that came up in the 1971 essay, Why Have There Been No Great Women Artists? And for years, I hung this in my studio space because it's important to understand how, as women artists, we haven't had the same opportunity as men, and it's pretty clear and cut and dry. 55 years ago, 1971, Nochlin argues that the question itself is a trap. She argues that the standard of greatness in and of itself is not neutral and is not merit based. The standard is built inside institutions historically to which women have not had access. Right now, today, if you walked into any major museum in the country, except if they're having a special exhibit focused on women art, percentage of art do you think is made by women? I think it was like 13% a few years ago, but I'll check and put that in the comments. Asking why there are no great women artists is like asking why somebody who's locked out of their home didn't have a party on the rooftop terrace. They couldn't even get in the first place. So, how does an artist become great in the first place? According to art history, they become great through access. And that access is to money, connections, networking, formal training, life drawing classes. And life drawing classes didn't typically accept women. Historically, women were denied all or most of the things that would contribute to that institutional greatness that was typically afforded to male artists. So no access means no pipeline, and no pipeline means no canon to greatness. In this essay, Linda Nochlin shifts the responsibility away from individual artists and into institutions. And by shifting that responsibility away from the individual artists and onto the system, she points at something relatively interesting that I don't think anybody thinks about as much as they used to. Art is always political, and art history is not a document of what actually happened. The history of art isn't a neutral record of what actually happened. It doesn't highlight only men artists because there were no women making art that could have been great. Art history excludes women because it's a curated, just like anything else in art, it's a curated story about who got written about, who got collected, who got exhibited, and whose work has been preserved. There's no argument here that there haven't been women who've made great art, but if you sit around the kitchen table and ask non artists and non historian, or people that don't know that much about art, who the great women artists are, they're going to find and name the exceptions, and those are exceptions that had access and prove the rule that women have typically been excluded from art historical space, but those are the women who got partial access to the male dominated systems of art history. 55 years later, why does this question and why does this essay still matter? Because it keeps coming up in different ways. Why aren't there more female masters? Why didn't women invent major art movements? The answer is always going to be the same. Access precedes achievement always. So, really, the takeaway here is that we don't need to be on the hunt for lost women geniuses to validate art history. We need to stop worshiping the canon. The problem was never women. The problem is an architecture of power, and we see this in so many other places. But in this case, it decided who counted as an artist in the first place, and it wasn't women. We haven't even started talking about the other ways that women have been historically excluded from careers and lifestyles in the arts, and there's a lot of them. And we can point right at the art and craft distinction that is so prevalent in artist communities today. And I'll be talking about this a lot more. If you like this kind of video, make sure you like it and follow along, and let me know what your thoughts are on women in art and why are there no great women artists.